down to the ground. Why did the biggest storage facility in America burn down in our neighborhood? It was the state has failed their mission, the PUC. April of 2022 to April of 2025. In that 3-year period of time, there's been 8 fires, 7 outside storage, and the big one here in Moss Landing. That track record of continual fires shows that the PUC, the regulator, has failed at their mission to protect for safe, reliable, affordable energy storage facility. It's not safe. And the risk of a large fire by a large indoor storage facility will be growing as they get more of them put into different locations, like over in Watsonville. It would be great if PUC would self-assess itself. I have not seen the head of the commission stand up and say, I gave our group these instructions. Look for the technical stuff at the operating level, and you look for whatever the regulator, us, could have been done better. They'd be honest and just grab it. And so I think that CPUC's got to be willing to look at themselves. Did they screw up? And if they did, fix that. Vistra itself, man, they paid a price. I mean, we say high risk, not because of just the design. When you read our report, it's high risk because if you screw this up, the cost is horrendous. It was high risk to them as a company, and it was high risk to our environment. And so this industry is moving not just to have 100,000 battery buildings, but they can go to larger ones. And that issue, well, maybe you need to build firewalls or a couple of them on your floor so that you can get 4 hours or more time to react, maybe not lose the whole doggone building. So that was on the operator's side. And they chose to build here, buy here, right next to the federal sanctuary and the ocean, the estuary for the state, a tourist mecca, the fertile fields of the salad bowl of America, 10 cities that curve around from Santa Cruz to Pacific Grove, businesses that are locally, and they didn't protect it. They had a duty, but they chose to go to this place. You could have went someplace else. They put all that at risk. So it appears from the not gathering data, not having drones to get data from when there's a fire, not having drones for first responders to protect them as they're trying to figure out how to fight these fires. It appears that the CPUC and the state of California is more concerned about fielding the technology than they are about protecting people. That's got to change. You got to do both. But the wording and what was implemented in GO 167 doesn't say anything about those dirty words, thermal runaway. It's like we can't talk about that. Hey, it's your worst case. Let's solve that and let's plan in case that happens so we can protect kids and families. You know, if I was a supervisor making a decision on a BES going in, I would not like to have approved it and then downstream see some family burnt before they build another facility. If they're going to try and rebuild it there, they need to come up with an explanation of why it's not going to burn down, or if it does, why are they going to show up prepared this time?
Well, remember that Never Again Moss Landing is not against battery storage. We are not against that. What we're against is battery storage left to self-police and do whatever they think should be done without regulation and without health concerns being shown. So what we want, me, or the end game, is to make sure that we can all live in a healthy society, a healthy community, where we're not having to wonder what's coming out of a fire like the one that happened in Moss Landing in January and February. They still have not released, this is 6 months, they still have not released publicly what's in that ash. It's all the same symptoms. Some are worse than others. I do know that I have acid burns that you can see on the outside of my skin. What did those acid burns do to my lungs? If got it on my skin, I was breathing it. So we don't want this to happen to someone in Watsonville. We don't want it to happen in Morro Bay. We don't want it to happen anyplace else. We are so committed to this at this point to find out what truly does get created in a fire like this, so that no one else has to go through what we've gone through and what we're going through now. See the red that's going through here? That's just the acid burns. Those are the scars from where the blisters were. And at first I thought it was a rash. You know, you get stress. The first fire, the plume didn't drop over my house. But I did, you could smell it, you could taste it, but it went further before it dropped. And there was a rash all over my arms, my face, and I went to the doctor, thought it was stress. That's what it is, it's a rash. The second fire, the plume dropped over my house. And that's when you could just see, all of a sudden it's super red, and I'm outside all the time. All the time I'm outside. And then I've got animals that come in and out. And then the blisters started almost immediately. So I go back to the dermatologist. Yeah, you've got acid burns. So if it's doing that to my skin and I'm breathing it and moisture is in your, you're taking it in, you've got moisture in your mouth, you've got moisture in your body, what's it doing to my lungs? Or what did it do to my lungs? I don't know. Good afternoon. Thank you all for being here, media and community. Today we're presenting a service, for the media and the public to take the jigsaw puzzles we've collected, puzzle pieces we've collected, put them together in an understandable manner, and you will see photos worth more than 1,000 words. Ed Mitchell will be presenting for you first.
I'm Ed Mitchell. Because of my 15 years of experience testing and deploying national missile defense technology, while in the Army and at Lockheed Martin, I volunteered to be the Never Again Moss Landing lead investigator. The investigation spanned 5 months, from 16 January through 16 June 2025. What we produced is a 51-page document including 18 evidence slides. The focus of the investigation was to determine how and why Vistra's Phase 1 ion battery storage facility burned down and spread pollution across the Monterey Bay Central Coast region. Our top 2 goals are, first, identify needed corrective action so never again will a community be damaged by a massive indoor battery fire as our community has suffered. Second, identify needed operator and regulator corrective actions so the energy industry can succeed and can safely operate. Today we are releasing to the media and to the public Never Again Moss Landing's investigation report, which can be found at our website, neveragainmosslanding.org. It is in the resources pull-down menu. Additionally, we have provided a media package that includes 20 questions that we recommend the media consider asking Vistra and/or the CPUC. In the next 15 to 20 minutes, I will announce several top-level findings while briefly showing evidence slides in the report that led to the findings. We believe this summary will help the media and the public gauge the merit of the investigation. For example, the evidence revealed witnesses in the storage layout by Vistra Energy, the storage owner and the operator, as well as failure and non-actions by the state's utility regulator, the California Public Utilities Commission. The majority of evidence used is Vistra and its battery rack suppliers' photographs and press releases, plus the CPU's website and voting meeting data, and the county's permitting documentation. Here we go. It's almost 6 months since the Vistra battery fire at Moss Landing, but neither the battery warehouse operator or the state has told the media or the public what pollution is at the burn site. Here's another finding. In 2019, supporters of ion battery storage in Monterey County argued for a permit to be issued to Vistra to do storage on the old PG&E energy site at Moss Landing. They used sentences or words to the effect, ion battery storage is a great green technology. The only problem with that message is that it's not true. It's not fully true, and it's not revealing of the full aspects of the energy situation. So here's the statement with all three words. Ion battery storage is a great green technology when it works. But when it doesn't work, it's going to look like this. These are images from KSBW-TV and KION-TV that occurred during the fire. They prove the following: that the storage facility's suppression system did not suppress, the storage system's containment system did not contain, that the public was put at risk, and pollution spread all over our local region. I'm going to go through a series of photos, and I think that as you see these and put them together, you'll come to your own conclusion about the merit of what went on at Vistra. This is the building, this long building here, that's over 2 football fields long, that burnt down. That was refurbished, and this is a picture of the first floor and the third floor, which Vistra said they were going to store batteries. There was 100,000 batteries put into the building. We did our investigation assuming that 50,000 went into the third floor and the first floor. Notice on the third floor here, windows, lights going all the way to the end down there, and this gap. Now this picture isn't the greatest, you have to read the report, and it's a lot clearer there. This is the 3-story gap that you saw a moment ago at the top of it. First floor, second floor, third floor. Notice here, there are some racks that are already inserted. These other ones must be lifted up and put up here. We do not know, well, we know this, if this area here, which is open, was left that way, then smoke and fire and heat and liquid can seep one way or the other. We don't know after this if they sealed it with what's known as firestop, but as it stood on this day, it's one building and it's one room. Now, how did they store batteries, and how does that look? Here we have an employee, LG Energy, released a press release that said, hey, we came up with a way that you can double stack racks, and that way you can put in twice as many batteries in the same footprint. Here you can see, here's a lower rack, and here's a double stack above it. You can count these 11 positions for battery modules, and there's 22 total. They put these shoulder to shoulder, 9 of them. We call this, it's our terminology to help the public, as a single row unit. When it's double stacked, there's 396 batteries in that stack. How many batteries rows will come from 396 per row? Divide 50,000 batteries, come up with 126 rows and aisles. This shows the actual, this green area over here. Remember the windows and the lighting that I showed you before? Well, going down there, that's the end of the building down there. Here are the double stacked racks. And when we looked at it, it said, I wonder what that spacing is right there. Now we were able to calculate that as 5 feet 6 inches. But we didn't just stop with that. In March and April 2024, Vistra was talking to the citizens of Morro Bay, and in that, there were questions raised because of a September 4th, 2021 incident that occurred up here at Moss Landing. They were concerned about safety, and in the process, Vistra showed this picture of an employee at the Phase 1 location standing between two rows. That looks narrower than 5 feet 6 inches. I can show you what 5 feet 6 inches look like. Hold that. From fingertip to knuckles. Looks to us, it looked to us that it's even closer than the 5 foot 6 inches. That's okay. We had a feel there for the layout. Notice also what's not in the picture. Do you see any interrupting firewalls? Like maybe they could have built two of them and had space in between and gained more time to keep the fire from spreading to one section. They didn't do that. Were there rooms built down there to contain portions of this? No. This layout is all the batteries on one floor. That brings me to an analogy. Here we have, I want you to think about this. This is a double stack of 5-gallon plastic gasoline containers. Now, imagine a row of these that would stretch that wall over there, and that there were 50,000 containers of gasoline in one room. And we invite you into the room and go, hey, what do you think about this? Would you see some concern or recognize that if one of those cans started on fire, it puts at risk the whole floor? And that's where you get us, why we're coming. It isn't rocket science, it's a safety issue. And so that's one of our findings, was that this layout is prone to burning down if you get an uncontrollable fire that occurs. Guess what? It did. Now, this, I believe, is the most telling photo that we're going to be showing you today. Look at the difference between the storage in this area, which is inside the Phase 1 building, and very near to the building, PG&E's outdoor storage area. Notice the distancing over here is much more than in here. That led us to say that this is densely packed compared to that. In fact, when we blew the photo up, we noticed this truck parked there. And we measured using the smallest size truck, which is my white Chevy Colorado outside. There are bigger ones. But that was just over 8 feet. So inquisitive minds, like on public radio, might ask, why is the indoor storage more densely packed than the proven storage done outside? So therefore we get to our finding, the double stack, densely packed row unit layout made it easier for thermal heating to jump across aisles and harder for the building suppression system to suppress. Second finding, thus storage facility operator, Vistra, installed and operated a high-risk, single building, high quantity, double stacked, densely packed indoor storage layout that was prone to completely burn up all the batteries on a floor if uncontrolled thermal runaway erupted. So now let's move on to some findings regarding the California Public Utilities Commission. This chart shows international fires that occurred where indoor and outdoor buildings burnt down, where some people were killed, like in Arizona. This section over here in the yellow, this is all in California. There was 10 incidences, but picking up where the fires were, from April 5th, 2022, in different county areas, there was a series of fires, and then in January of 2025, the biggest indoor storage facility in America burned down here. 8 fires. That track record proves that the California Public Utility Commission failed at its mission to provide safe, reliable, and affordable public utility battery storage. There are some other things that we found in regards to the CPUC. And that should be on this slide. Here at the Vistra fire, 0 California state vapor, plume, or downwind sampling occurred, and 0 sampling results have been reported inside the fence surrounding the burn site. Also, during the last 8 years, the CPUC has not taken downwind sampling from any one of the fires. We believe that shows that the California Public Utility Commission is more concerned about fielding technology than it is about public safety. That needs to change. I'm going to turn it over now to our one of our members nicknamed Runaway. She's going to talk about the difficulties that she's had in getting data from different agencies from state to county.
Hello, I'm Runaway, and I want to tell you about my experience requesting public records related to the Moss Landing battery fire. I'm going to start with NOAA. On May 14th, I requested the high split data and email correspondence. NOAA responded to me the next day, invoking an extension and anticipating having a response by June 27th. No records or response were received by June 27th. On July 11th, NOAA emailed me asking if I'm still interested in them fulfilling the record request. I responded the same day saying, yes, I am still interested. EPA. I requested from the EPA all air monitoring data from the Moss Landing power plant battery fire from the dates of January 15th to February 28th. I made it clear I'm expecting the record to include the morning of January 18th. The EPA responded that the data is available on the county website. To be clear, the data for January 18th, the morning of, has been and continues to be missing from the county website. I have asked the county multiple times for this data, and they have continued to ignore my request. I recently submitted an appeal to the EPA asking them for the data for January 18th, 2025, from 5 a.m. to 11 a.m. Through a previous fulfilled records request, we know that the data exists for the morning of January 18th from 5 a.m. to 11 a.m. On this slide, what you are looking at is an email sent from the EPA to OEHHA, CAL FIRE, Vistra, and the County of Monterey. As you can see, Station 9 has extremely high peak of PM10. According to the EPA Air Quality Index, Station 9 was quadruple the hazardous level, meaning health warning of emergency condition. Everyone is more likely to be affected. Additionally, Station 9 never collected data on HF levels the entire time it was deployed. Station 9 is located 2.3 miles north of the Moss Landing power plant. According to the soot plume model provided by the County of Monterey website, Site 9 does not fall within their model limits. However, many of us know that this model was inaccurate because we were able to see with our eyes that the plume went much further than what the local, state, and federal agencies are willing to admit. Additionally, the air monitoring data the EPA collected clearly shows that the soot plume model is woefully inadequate. The County of Monterey has made getting public records challenging. On April 26, 2025, I requested all the emails, attachments, text messages, Slack messages of Kelsey Scalone with the following agencies: NOAA, CAL FIRE, Luminant, Vistra, Cal EPA, MBARD, OEHS, DTSC. The county responded on June 27th that it would cost me $5,590 to receive these records. I responded to the county on June 18th, telling them, proceed with the request and send me the invoice. It's been 12 days and I've yet to receive a response. So this last comment I'm about to make comes from me as an individual, does not necessarily reflect the experience and views of the others in the Never Again Moss Landing group. I signed up with a law firm with a very famous spokeswoman, and they were advertising, and I asked them that I wanted to include the local and state agencies in my claim. They told me no. I have the right to change lawyers, so I did, and I talked to several firms. The only firm that I found that was willing to include them was Keenan Law, and they told me something very interesting that I want to tell everybody here. In the state of California, you only have 6 months to bring a claim against state and local agencies. So if you are interested in including these agencies in your claims, make sure you talk to your law firm right away. I anticipate many firms will say what I heard, which was, it's too difficult. But I'm not interested in an easy settlement. I want accountability so this never happens to my community again. Thanks everybody, and by the way, if you have any questions for me or you want to see some of my records, you're more than welcome to email me at Runaway. That's ThermaRunaway@gmail.com. Additionally, I will be uploading the public records that I've been receiving to neveragainmosslanding.org. So keep an eye out for future updates. Thanks.
So where do we go from here? We initially distributed our report to the Board of Supervisors to give them 30 days to absorb the information and decide what they were going to do or not do about it. We subsequently sent the investigation report to the PUC. We also sent it to the fire marshal for the state and to the DTSC, who we spoke to the senior toxicologist, Dr. Valerie Henley, who came here and visited with us. We appreciate her doing that. We told them we had data. We didn't tell them we had a report that was going to be critical because of state failures or inactions. We've asked, and they seem responsive to helping us protect other communities from this type of disaster. We now will be going this week and submitting to about 3 more politicians and to about 6 more state agencies, including the California Energy Commission. Wanted to make a comment about our report, and Assemblywoman Dawn Addis, whose coastal district stretches through here and farther south. She has designed and is pushing for the approval of AB 303, which puts forces battery storage facilities to be stepped back from certain areas. Moss Landing may have been the worst place on the California coast, or at least the second worst, because the other one is down in Morro Bay, to build a facility, and we are paying the price for a fire in this pristine area where we have incredible, fertile agricultural land, state estuary sanctuary, federal ocean sanctuary, mecca for tourists, businesses in this area. So we've got more work to do. We appreciate every one of the media that came, because you're the most important people in this room. You're carrying the message, and you don't have to agree with us. You can editorialize whatever you want, but the word needs to get out about what we've said here. The 20 questions that have been handed out in your media package are questions that effectively we're communicating to the PUC. Don't come down here with a shoddy investigation of what happened. It was more than a battery. It was a systemic problem that included software testing, initial ignition event, the failure of the containment and suppression system, and the way the batteries were stored. It's bigger than a battery. So thank you for coming. We had a couple of late arrivals. If there's any questions?
I have a question.
Oh, okay.
Is it true that Vistra has put a hold on their battery facility in Monterey Bay?
Yes.
And is it because of the fire that took place here in Moss Landing?
Actually, there was an action taken by the citizens in Morro Bay to resist approving the building of a BESS in that area. And with this incident, they're holding off. And we would recommend any area that the Board of Supervisors and Planning Departments, you need to wait until you get the results from the PUC, our report plus the PUC, and see what the faulty things are that need to be corrected. Because they're down in, there's a phase 2 building on Moss Landing that was built. We don't know if the software, if there were any software problems in the phase 1 area. Is that software problem sitting in the phase 2? The SED, Safety Enforcement Division of the PUC, and others need to ensure that the designs that are coming forward do not reflect any of the poor dense packing that occurred in this site. That's one example. Yes, second question.
Have there been any incidents with the Tesla storage facility in Moss Landing?
Actually, yes, there was in 2021, and in fact I drove through the cloud, not knowing what it was then, and that was what we call a smoke and suppression incident. There was smoke that got into the storage area, and this happened in phase 1 of Vistra, and then also there was one with the Tesla. The smoke got in and triggered the software, because there was smoke, to suppress, except it wasn't smoke coming from batteries. So it was a false reading. And so we started spraying water, and that started shorting out batteries. 7,000 batteries were in 19 rows were lost. But I have to say that the Vistra people in the Vistra side that stopped that incident from turning into a runaway earned their pay that day. They did courageous, good work. Unfortunately, we don't know what the ignition incident was at this last fire. There was another question someplace? Jeff?
I'm searching my memory. Isn't FOIA still in place that the government agencies, at least federal government, has to respond? Or is that the charges for copying and...
FOIA did respond, and they asked me if I'm still interested in the files. So that was NOAA and the EPA. They have not been easy to work with. They've been very difficult, and I've been more than willing to pay whatever fees that they've been asking me to pay.
What role are the ad companies, what role are the ad companies playing in responding to this? Has anyone approached them to join us?
We've not reached out to the ag to join us. there has basically been no indication that there was yet of any damage to any crops, and et cetera. So the ag companies are quiet, and nor should we raise a false concern that there was any crops that were damaged. But they've basically been silent. I have talked to Nolan Groot, who's the head of Farm Bureau, and he did do some interaction with the Board of Supervisors. But it's quiet.
The ag community at this point has, I'm sure they're doing testing. They probably don't have results because they don't have baseline data to compare it to. This has never been tested anywhere in the United States that we know of. We can't alarm the people about the ag community because no one knows if the crops were damaged, if the soil is damaged. We don't know that. So we would love to hear from the ag community, but I do understand why they're being silent. If there were a problem, they would shut down.
We have spoken with a lot of people who have been trying to get information regarding native indigenous impacts on agriculture. And it's incredibly complex. Each individual crop, each individual field, each individual aspect of this is unique to each location. The intake is a question we don't know. I think the key point is that there's been very little guidance from state and federal authorities, near as we can tell, to the farmer community. So they've been left primarily to their own devices only. I can hear you.
So the Agriculture Commission did do some testing, and it is on the county website. Now, I did reach out to one farm, which I had a subscription to. I won't name the names, but I asked them if they did any testing of their own, and they said, no, we looked at the report that was done by the Agriculture Commission. They said everything's fine, so we're moving forward. So that was the answer I got. So if you're unhappy with that data, I recommend you reach out to the Agriculture Commission and make sure you look at the county website because there is a wealth of data on there. They mainly tested for heavy metals. I wish they would have tested for more contaminants because as we know, those fires release PFAs and dioxins. And I have not seen the sample results from the Vistra power plant for PFAs and dioxins, but I know they're doing it in their sampling plan. So obviously it must be there.
So thank you for coming. Thank you.
At 51-page report, what's the big takeaway or takeaways from this? There was a study, right?
We did an investigation of why and how the Vistra fire of the Phase 1 storage, why did it burn down to the ground? Why did the biggest storage facility in America burn down in our neighborhood? Now, there's two types of things that we came across when we started doing the investigation. One was, what things did the operator do? Were there some weaknesses in what they did in storage? And there were. And then another one was, well, what's the state doing? And what we found there was the state has failed their mission, the PUC, that since 2022, September 2022, April of 2022 to April of 2025, in that 3-year period of time, there's been 8 fires, 7 outside storage, and the big one here in Moss Landing. That track record of continual fires shows that the PUC, the regulator, has failed at their mission to protect for safe, reliable, affordable energy storage facility. It's not safe. And the risk of a large fire by a large indoor storage facility will be growing as they get more of them put into different locations, like over in Watsonville. And so that was one of the findings, and why what we found in storage was that Vistra put 50,000 batteries on one floor, and they double stacked them and densely packed them. So there was a huge number of batteries on one floor. So if one starts a fire and you can't stop it, the design is going to lose the whole floor, therefore it's going to melt because of the heat, it's going to melt the steel, you're going to lose the whole building, and they did. So one thing we're saying is PUC and operators, you just can't keep sticking batteries in there and say, oh, it's not going to happen. And so this industry is moving not just to have 100,000 battery buildings, but they can go to larger ones. And that issue, well, maybe you need to build firewalls or a couple of them on your floor so that you can get 4 hours or more time to react, maybe not lose the whole doggone building. So that was on the operator's side. And they chose to build here, buy here, right next to the federal sanctuary in the ocean, the estuary for the state, a tourist mecca, the fertile fields of the salad bowl of America, 10 cities that curve around from Santa Cruz to Pacific Grove, businesses that are locally, and they didn't protect it. They had a duty, but they chose to go to this place. You could have went someplace else. They put all that at risk, and that's what is a problem. And therefore, the state is, okay, you also have a track record of not gathering any downwind data. It's like, oh, it's all right here. When in fact we see, and you monitored it and reported on it, all the stuff that was blowing downwind. And so it appears from the not gathering data, not having drones to get data from when there's a fire, not having drones for first responders to protect them as they're trying to figure out how to fight these fires, it appears that the CPUC and the state of California is more concerned about fielding the technology than they are about protecting people. That's got to change. You got to do both.
You bring up that interesting point, that some of the solutions are design-based, and you kind of alluded to it, that, I mean, a simple thing would be the more firewalls. Just keep these, a couple of things. Don't put them so dense, put some firewalls, and then, I mean, your interesting suggestion. I mean, I don't know if they did that. Like, okay, we've got drones in the air. Let's dust them for particles. I don't think there's anything difficult about that.
No, it truly.
What were you saying about the drones?
Okay. Right now, the PUC has regulations for using drones up in San Francisco starting in 2019. They have instructions about how to use or not use drones around airfields. Okay, but here they have an industry that built the biggest storage facility, and they had not in any of the other fire locations. Do they require a drone to be available for aerial coverage for first responders? Just what's on site, what's not on site. And they could do, and it's being studied up at Santa Cruz, UC Santa Cruz, about how to use drones to monitor air sampling, and it can be done. It's common sense. Fly the thing up there, fly it through the part of the plume, maybe not the main hottest part, bring it back down, do what's known as a ghost wipe, because it's plastic. You take the reading, you take it to a spectrometer, analyze it, in 4 hours you know what's going on. The behavior of the state is they don't want to find what they're not looking for. And so there hasn't been any downwind grabbing of data. This is a harbinger of how bad things can be. You don't want these fires in other locations. So that's one thing about just, it seems like common sense. Join the low-cost, common, modern era of use your drones in a positive manner. The storage, because the PUC did not have any regulations for indoor storage, it turns out to be do what you want, self-policing by the industry. A guy like me walking in the door and knowing something about like the history of this area, the California Powder Works was in Santa Cruz, 1870s to the 1920s. It was the biggest dynamite builder on the West Coast, and it was crucial for California so that they could put in railroads and they could do mining. Right? They did not put igniters, powder, and complete dynamite sticks in the same buildings. Yes, they had explosions, but they didn't lose everything. Now you have a technology that we use the old cans, plastic 5-gallon cans as an example. Now you have a technology where you walk into a room and the battery itself and everything has enough to burn its own self up. So a guy like me walking in going, and also being in the military and looking about keeping munitions apart, it was like, to me, this is stupid. It was a bad design. It had this attribute that if they must have been trusting that we got the best suppression system. Ask them, when did you test it? After the September 4, 2021 event and the changing of your software, if you did that, what testing did you do? Because we know from the fire that you showed me on the TV, suppression system didn't work. So it failed. Did they do testing, real world testing, to see that their changes were going to work? I don't know. They must have had high confidence, because I looked at it and just, when this thing started coming down, I was sitting in the Board of Supervisors, and the Western Regional Manager for Vistra came up and he was answered a question about how many batteries were in there. He said 100,000. First thing, and I saw the group around me, they all winched. First thing I thought was, I hope they didn't put them all in one room. You look at the design. At least they put half of them all in one room.
Where do we go from here, Ed?
A couple things. One, it would be great if PUC would self-assess itself. I have not seen the head of the commission stand up and say, I gave our group these instructions. Look for the technical stuff at the operator level, and you look for whatever the regulator, us, could have been done better. They'd be honest and just grab it, and if it's not good, then correct it. They got to move forward at work and feeling and technology, so you want to eliminate things like you didn't do enough testing, or your layout is just too risky. You got to put firewalls or something in there, and we've got to protect the people. You got to work the technical and the people. There's people on the East Coast that have a battery that doesn't burn, that's arguing that should be the technology that's being used. So there's the technology of the industry could get better with the batteries, yes. But you also have to put some rules on what are you doing in the building. You don't just lay them all out, because you can't depend upon that suppression system unless you do dual suppression systems. You got two backups to stop the thermal runaway, and you test it and it works. So I think that CPUC's got to be willing to look at themselves. Did they screw up? And if they did, fix that. Vistra itself, man, they paid a price. I mean, we say high risk, not because of just the design. When you read our report, it's high risk because if you screw this up, the cost is horrendous. It was high risk to them as a company, and it was high risk to our environment. So the designs, the different plants that are coming forward, the plans for storage, they need to be reviewed, not just by the owner-operators. They should be told, hey, check this, and SED, I think, needs to go out and look. Phase 2, right here in Moss Landing, they ought to be inspecting that building and see, here's one thing, what did you do in Phase 2 that you didn't do in Phase 1? And if it's working in Phase 2, why didn't you go over there and put it there? Or, it broke down at Phase 1, we better double check. That building needs to be inspected and see if there's any flaws before it comes online. You'd asked me about, a few weeks ago, I was around when PG&E was talking about doing their startup, and I didn't have much to say. But Phase 2, before they turn that on, they better be able to stand up and say, we checked all this stuff and we do not have any flaws in Phase 2 that were over there. They should be able to walk in and tell the Board of Supervisors that type of information. So we don't have another one of these. Before they build another facility, if they're going to try and rebuild it there, they need to come up with an explanation of why it's not going to burn down, or if it does, why are they going to show up prepared this time?
That's what you kind of mentioned, a worst-case scenario plan.
Yeah. The GO 167 should be changed to say, and Laird was trying to do a good job, Senator Laird was trying to get an improvement, but the wording and what was implemented in GO 167 doesn't say anything about those dirty words, thermal runaway. It's like, we can't talk about that. Hey, it's your worst case. Let's solve that, and let's plan in case that happens so we can protect kids and families. You know, if I was a supervisor making a decision on a BES going in, I would not like to have approved it, and then downstream, see some family burnt. Don't want to do that.
Last question. Who took part in this investigation, and who were your lead investigators on this? And what did they look at?
Okay, there was 3 of us mainly. Myself, Therma Runaway, she goes by that nickname. She happened to be a biochemist who had worked in a heavy metal lab before. Gail Eisner, she had time in the EPA as a EPA field specialist, checking for code enforcement. And myself, which is a background in acquisition management and high technology, just testing and fielding it. So we sat down and started trying to find the jigsaw pieces, like those pictures. You know, it took us some time to find that stuff. And then when we did, and you put it together, you go, there's the story here. They're not pulling stuff out of the smoke. It's just baloney. This is what they did.
So really nothing really scientific about this. I mean, because you haven't been, I mean, obviously you
Systems
have.
management.
I'm sorry?
It's more of a systems management approach. No, we don't go into, and we don't have the information on what was the ignition event. No, this is sitting down and saying, just like in the 1870s, how are we going to put this stuff and make it and not blow the whole place up? That's what you're concerned about. So if you think it's a good idea, and I say, you guys decide to do it, 50,000 batteries down this floor. How'd that work out for you? Okay. This guy over here who's talking about system engineering says that's not a good design because of the risk that it presented to your company and to the environment and to the community. Bad design. It's too risky. Don't do that. Or do something where you know that building suppression system can actually work. Why didn't it work this time? And I think that what we said there, it's densely packed, too densely packed.
The report, it doesn't go into like toxicity and
No,
like
no.
chemicals and
No,
like
there's-
chemical levels. You didn't look into all that. You just looked at, okay, the plant, how it's constructed, how it's laid out.
Yeah, and if
Is
you,
it safe or not safe, and how do we make it
in
safe?
September 4th, 2021, when they had the smoke and suppression problem, the PUC reported on it, and Vistra added to it, that liquid flowed down. Smoke, it wasn't battery smoke, but it triggered the software. If I smell smoke, I suppress, turned on suppression, shooting water onto good batteries, shorted shit out. Things went downhill after that. And they lost nearly 7,000 batteries in about 19 rows. But Vistra says in the after action that the liquid flowed down. There was enough liquid that it flowed down, penetrated through the floor, to the second floor, to the third floor. That tells you the thing, what is known as firestop, did not exist. Firestop is where you construct it with material such that there's no holes, or the holes, when heat shows up, the holes close. And that gives you time. It's beyond fireproof. It gives you time to fight the fire. So we know at one time that that wasn't in place. And when you look at the gap where you have the 3 stories and you see the openings into the different floors, if you don't close that off, you have one building. I noticed I did not say single building, single room, because I can't prove that they didn't seal off properly. But if they didn't, then fire and smoke and heat can go and transfer down. And this is so hot that it can light the next floor on fire. And then it is a single room. So I'd say the solution is you better have multiple rooms that you can control the fire. And 50,000 laid out has proved to be not a good solution.
I mean, Tanya, so kind of got a little overview from Ed. What are you hoping for, I mean, as the group moving forward from your study, and then what happens next in terms of board of supervisors, maybe state leaders?
Well, remember that Never Again Moss Landing is not against battery storage. We are not against that. What we're against is battery storage left to self-police and do whatever they think should be done without regulation and without health concerns being shown. So what we want, me, or the end game, is to make sure that we can all live in a healthy society, a healthy community, where we're not having to wonder what's coming out of a fire like the one that happened in Moss Landing in January and February. They still have not released, this is 6 months, they still have not released publicly what's in that ash. It would be so simple to walk over there and pick some of that up and have it analyzed. There are thousands of people that have put in health concerns or health symptoms in this area alone, and of those thousands of people, when it's repetition of the same symptoms, we know that something's happening here. It's not this person just saying, oh, I've got this because. It's all the same symptoms. Some are worse than others. I am one of the lucky ones. I don't have major symptoms that are keeping me from doing something. But I do know that I have acid burns that you can see on the outside of my skin. What did those acid burns do to my lungs? If I got it on my skin, I was breathing it. So that's more our concern. What's going to happen, my concern, sorry. What's going to happen down the road 2 years, 5 years, 10 years? We don't know. So we don't want this to happen to someone in Watsonville. We don't want it to happen in Morro Bay. We don't want it to happen anyplace else. We are so committed to this at this point to find out what truly does get created in a fire like this, so that no one else has to go through what we've gone through and what we're going through now.
So you don't buy the county results that they've done, the air monitoring, the samplings, that there's no high levels of hydrochlorified or
Hydrofluoric
yeah.
Gas?
Yeah, that they haven't found any toxic levels in some of their findings.
No, I don't. Anything that's been released by the authorities, no, I don't buy it. Not when that many people are having problems. Not when I can prove to you that I have acid burns on my skin. Where else would I have gotten them? It's not like I went into a mine somewhere after January and February and walked in and rubbed stuff all over me. No, when it's documented that hydrofluoric acid hitting water, moisture, turns into hydrochloric acid, it's gonna fall from the sky. Where else is it gonna go? So, no, I don't buy that. And I won't buy it unless they can prove it to me. They haven't been able to prove it to me, so no, I'm not buying it.
What's
Do I
these-
sound a little
yeah,
mad?
well, show me these, what's these acid birds you're talking about?
See the red that's going through here? That's just the acid burns. Those are the scars from where the blisters were. And at first I thought it was a rash. You know, you get stress, and because the first fire, the plume didn't drop over my house. But I did, you could smell it, you could taste it, but it went further before it dropped. And there was a rash all over my arms, my face, and I went to the doctor, thought it was stress. That's what it is, it's a rash. The second fire, the plume dropped over my house. It didn't drop just on my house, dropped closer to my house. And that's when you could just see, all of a sudden it's super red, and I'm outside all the time. All the time I'm outside. And then I've got animals that come in and out. And then the blisters started almost immediately. So I go back to the dermatologist. Yeah, you've got acid burns. So if it's doing that to my skin and I'm breathing it and moisture is in your, you're taking it in, you've got moisture in your mouth, you've got moisture in your body, what's it doing to my lungs? Or what did it do to my lungs? I don't know.
Have you had any x-rays? I mean, what's
Not on my lungs.
Was the doctor saying anything? Did the blood test, anything like that?
Your blood's not going to show the same thing as what's happening here. Your blood moves things out a lot faster than the rest of your body. Your hair is going to tell you more. Those kind of things, because your hair's here.
Have you had that tested?
Keeps doing, yeah, I've had hair tests done.
What is that saying?
There's
I'm only
definitely.
asking because I was right there and I haven't seen the doctor since then, so I'm just,
Well, you know,
it's like,
and yeah, you were right in the middle of it. Yeah, there's, heavy metals, but again, if you don't have a baseline to compare anything to, what does this mean? Then we've been trying to get toxicologists here. We're finally getting, as the organization, getting the toxicologists here to help us extrapolate what the information means. We've got more information
Right, the
than the
county
county
got that,
does. So you're being, because you were right there. Thank God you were here and it was going that way, as opposed to, because you were on this side of one and it was blowing that way. And I think you're extremely lucky that that was what was happening.
that's for sure.
And again, it's going to affect people differently. It affects absolutely everyone differently.
Yeah.
But if you don't feel it, this is not, I don't give you. If you're not feeling anything, if you're not having a problem breathing, if you're a healthy man. That helps.
But yeah.